Hey friends, tonight we venture into the sun-drenched, olive oil-glazed realm of ancient Greece, a civilization famed for philosophy, early democracy, and statues that didn't believe in wearing pants. But beneath the legends of Plato, Spartan warriors, and golden shrines lies a much harsher reality. Because while ancient Greece laid the foundation of Western culture, for the average person, surviving daily life was a challenge you likely wouldn't endure. So before you get too cozy, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you sincerely appreciate this kind of content, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is. I always love seeing how far this little corner of the world reaches. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft ambient hum, and let's quietly descend into tonight's exploration together. Welcome to ancient Greece, where your morning doze and tea start with a buzzing alarm, but with the rising sun gradually turning your home into a personal oven. Your dwelling is simple, built from sun-dried mud bricks or uneven stone. There's no glass in the windows, just wooden shutters or woven cloth. No insulation, no air conditioning. Only the dry Mediterranean heat pressing in. And if you're lucky, your roof is made of terracotta tiles. If not, packed reeds. Either way, your ceiling is more of a suggestion than a shield. You wake up not on a soft mattress, but on a thin pad stuffed with straw. No blanket, just a worn sheet, if you have one. Bugs, of course. Clean water, rare. Soap is made from ash and animal fat and doesn't smell great, but it's all you've got. And don't even ask about indoor plumbing, that's a fantasy for future centuries. You stretch, groan, and step onto a dirt floor. Breakfast, a piece of stale barley bread if you're fortunate, maybe dipped in olive oil, if your family's harvest was good this year. No coffee, no eggs, just bread, olives, and maybe some goat cheese if you're incredibly lucky. After your modest breakfast, it's time to get dressed. But don't expect a wardrobe. You own one outfit, maybe two if you're wealthy. You slip into a chiton, a simple tunic held together by pins or a belt. It's made of wool or linen, often itchy, rarely washed, and never stylish by modern standards. Underwear, not a thing. Sandals if you're lucky. Most people walk barefoot, building up calluses while dodging sharp stones, manure and worse. Now it's time for your day, work. And unless you re one of the rare elite, that means labor. Farming, herding, hauling water from the local fountain. Women grind grain by hand for hours. Children help tend animals or fetch firewood. And don't think you can call in sick. There are no doctors, no paid leave, and no safety nets. If you don't work, you don't eat. If you're injured, you're a burden. Your daily labor depends on where you live and what your status is. If you're a man in the countryside, you're in the fields from dawn to dusk, planting, weeding, harvesting, all by hand or with simple tools. There are no machines, no fertilizers, just sweat, soil, and the hope that the gods are feeling generous this season. If you're a woman, your workload is double. You prepare meals, care for children, clean the house, which is just one room, and on top of that, you help in the fields or at the loom, spinning wool into thread. Slaves have it worse. They have no rights, no protection, and no hope of freedom unless their master is unusually kind. They do the hardest work, mining, rowing, or household chores from sunrise to sunset. Their names are forgotten by history, but they were the backbone of the economy. And what about education? Only boys from wealthy families learn to read and write. Their teachers are strict, lessons long, and mistakes punished with a stick. Girls, their education is at home, weaving, obedience, silence. Bathing isn't daily. The Greeks believed in cleanliness, yes, but soap is crude, and hot water rare. You scrape off sweat with a curved metal tool called a strigil. Sometimes you rinse in cold water, if there's a fountain nearby. Toilets, don't ask. Most people relieve themselves in a corner of the yard or use a chamber pot. There's no toilet paper, just leaves, maybe a rag, and privacy. That's not really a thing here. By midday, the sun is punishing. There's no shade in the fields, and the air is dry and still. You're sweating through your wool tunic, but removing layers isn't an option. Modesty matters, even when you're overheating. There's no sunscreen, no sunglasses, no relief. Water is precious. You might carry it in a clay jug from the public fountain. It's warm, often murky, and sometimes shared with animals. Boiling it isn't common, so parasites and illness spread easily. Wine, diluted with water, is the safer bet, even for children. No one's drinking milk unless they've just milked the goat themselves. Lunch is simple, maybe more barley bread, some olives, a bit of fish if you're lucky, no spices unless you're wealthy, no sugar at all. Honey is rare and treasured, and forget about desert, that's not a concept yet. If you live in the city, things aren't easier. Athenian streets are narrow, dusty, and crowded. There's waste in the gutters, dogs running wild, and merchants yelling over each other in the agora. People spit, cough, and argue in public, loudly, but the city is also where the action is. Theaters, debates, sacrifices, and public votes for male citizens, at least. Women stay home, out of sight, expected to be silent and obedient. Slaves run errands. Children tag along. The wealthy strut, and if you're not a citizen, your opinion doesn't matter. As the day drags on, your body aches. There's no such thing as ergonomic tools or rest breaks. You squat, bend, carry, and climb with sandals that barely protect your feet, or barefoot altogether. Injuries are common, infections more so. A simple cut from a farming tool can turn deadly without clean water or medical care. Speaking of medicine, it's a gamble. Doctors exist, but they're expensive, rare, and often more philosophers than healers. They believe in balancing the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Fever, must be too much blood, better bleed you with a knife. Stomach pain, drink some herbal wine and hope. Broken bones, no anesthesia, just grit your teeth while someone tries to reset it manually. Surgeries are done with rusty tools and bare hands. Sometimes it's better not to ask for help at all. As evening approaches, there's no electric light, no glow of a screen. You finish your chores by firelight or oil lamp. If you can afford oil, dinner is small, often the same as lunch. You eat with your fingers. Plates are simple clay. There are no forks, just bread to scoop, fingers to tear, and maybe a knife if you're privileged. Food is fuel, not comfort. You eat because you must, not because it tastes good. After dinner, there's little to do. If you're in the city, you might walk to the agora and listen to gossip or a poet reciting verses. If you're in the country, you check on animals, tend the fire, or just sit in silence. Entertainment is rare. Laughter even rarer. There's no privacy, and your home is crowded. Families, slaves, animals, all under one roof. When it's time to sleep, there's no comfort awaiting you. Your bed is the same hard mat you woke up on, stuffed with straw that creaks and shifts beneath you. There's no pillow unless you roll up an old tunic. No blanket unless it's winter, and then it's probably shared with others. There's no such thing as pajamas. You sleep in what you wore, or nothing at all. The sounds of the night aren't peaceful. Dogs bark, babies cry, someone coughs endlessly in the corner. You might hear footsteps in the dirt outside, a neighbor, or maybe a thief. There are no locks, no security, only wooden doors that creak on rusty hinges. Fires are dangerous but necessary, so someone always keeps an eye on the embers. You drift off slowly, knowing you'll be up again with the sun. And if you dream, it's not of peace, it's of war, famine, or gods who rarely show mercy. Religion is everywhere, but it doesn't comfort. The gods are unpredictable, proud, and often cruel. You sacrifice a goat, not for blessings, but to avoid punishment. A wrong word or wrong offering might anger them, and your crops will fail. You live in a world where illness is explained by curses, and disasters by divine mood swings. There are no guarantees, no fairness, just ritual, tradition, and the hope that tomorrow will be less harsh. And if you're a woman in ancient Greece, your experience is even more restricted. You aren't just expected to stay home. You're required to. You can't vote, can't speak in public meetings, and your name isn't even spoken outside your household if things are proper. Your life revolves around weaving, managing the slaves if your family owns any, raising children, and staying invisible. Marriage isn't about love, it's a transaction. Most girls are married off around the age of 14, often to men twice their age or older. Your husband is chosen for political or economic reasons, not affection. Once married, you move into his family's house and begin producing children. If you can't, you're a disappointment. If you only bear daughters, there's quiet shame. Childbirth is terrifying. There are no doctors in the room, only midwives and maybe a priestess. No pain relief, no antiseptic, no understanding of germs. Every birth is a gamble. Many women die, bleeding out, or from infections that have no names. If the baby survives, it's swaddled and placed at the father's feet. He decides whether it lives or is left outside the city gates to die. And if you're enslaved, man or woman, your life belongs to someone else completely. You may have been born free in a conquered city, then sold and shipped across the Aegean. You'll work in fields, homes, quarries, even temples. Never paid, never acknowledged. If you displease your master, you can be beaten, sold again, or worse. You don't get to dream, or rest, or decide. You are a tool, nothing more. Public life in Greece is reserved for free men, and even among them, not all are equal. To be a true citizen, you must be male, born to Athenian parents, and complete military training. Foreigners, even if wealthy, are excluded from voting or holding office. Slaves and women are invisible in politics. Democracy exists, yes, but only for a narrow slice of society. As a male citizen, you're expected to participate. You speak in the assembly, serve on juries, and go to war when called. War isn't rare, it's expected. City-states like Athens and Sparta are constantly fighting over land, pride, or grain shipments. Every man is trained to fight, whether he wants to or not, and war is brutal. You march with little armor, carrying a heavy shield and spear, side by side in tight ranks. There are no medics. If you're injured, you lie on the battlefield and hope someone carries you home, or that you die quickly. Even if you survive, there are no honors, no therapy, only silence and scars. You return to farming or pottery, expected to pick up where you left off. If your crops fail, you go hungry. If you fall ill, you pray to Asclepius and hope the fever breaks. There are no second chances, no safety nets, only the gods, the seasons, and the judgment of your neighbors. And as seasons turn, life in ancient Greece keeps moving, rough, unforgiving, and always demanding. Summer brings blistering heat, cracked earth, and sweat that soaks every tunic. Autumn means harvest, the small relief of grain stored against winter hunger. Winter chills cut through thin walls and thinner blankets. Families huddle close, breaths steaming in the dark. Spring returns hope, fields green again, lambs born, and new prayers whispered to the gods. You wake and sleep to the same sounds, carts rumbling over stone, roosters crowing before dawn, neighbors shouting news that changes little. Festivals come, Dionysia, Panathenea, sacrifices to Athena or Demeter. Men drink, dance, chant, hymns older than memory. Wine flows, and for a night, laughter feels easy. But even these moments carry shadows. Fear of drought, plague, or war never truly leaves. Children grow into the same narrow roles as their parents. Boys learn to fight and speak in the assembly. Girls learn to weave, knead dough, bear children. A handful of boys might learn letters, scratching wax tablets with a stylus, reciting verses until their throats ache. Outside the city walls, shepherds and farmers work the same hills their grandfathers did. Their wealth isn't measured in coin, but in goats, olives, and good harvest years. Inside, philosophers gather in courtyards, debating justice and the soul, words that never feed an empty stomach, but somehow feed something else. Every day, life balances between beauty and brutality. Stone temples rise above streets filled with refuse. Poetry survives longer than the hands that penned it. Statues look serene, while the living grow bent under labor and sun. And through it all, hope flickers, a child's laughter in dusty alleys, a field of barley rippling gold at sunset, a song hummed low in a mother's throat. Small things, soft things, but stubborn enough to matter. You won't find eternity in marble halls or names carved on stone. Real eternity hides in the breath you take before dawn, the hand that passes bread across the fire, the lullaby whispered to a newborn. In ancient Greece, as in every age, most people weren't heroes, philosophers, or kings. They were hands roughened by harvest, feet hardened by miles walked, hearts quietly stubborn enough to hope for another sunrise. And maybe that's what truly survives, not the wars or the statues, but the small defiance of living anyway, rising each day to face the same gods, the same sky, the same unpromised tomorrow. Because, in the end, history remembers marble and myth, but life remembers touch, laughter, sweat, and love, whispered where no scribe ever wrote.